Welcome to Kabbalah Explained Simply. I'm Gianni. Today we're going to talk about a great Kabbalist called the Baal Shem Tov and what was his magic. Because Baal Shem Tov is known as, first of all, a great and also mysterious Kabbalist. We don't know a lot about him, although there are many stories, but he didn't write anything himself, and the stories were sort of passed along, like the game of telephone, where they're passed along over the generations. Some were written down. And of course, to this Kabbalist, there's an ascription of lots of miracles and magic. And so we're going to talk about what is this magic of Baal Shem Tov? What was magical about him? Did he perform miracles? If so, were they above nature? Were they just metaphorical? Were they understood differently by those close to him versus how they were understood by the public? So shortly after Baal Shem Tov's death, there was a book published that was about all of the miracles and magic that he performed. And this is where a lot of the stories about the Baal Shem Tov came from. I was doing a little bit of research, and what I found out is that this book, where a lot of these stories about Baal Shem Tov arise, it was viewed among the great ones of the generation as, and after that generation, as a kind of joke. So there was this book that people believed in about the Baal Shem Tov's powers and his magic, and it was considered a joke. Now, so I don't even want to give it any attention. But there is something about a Kabbalist being magical, because a Kabbalist is one who attains the upper world, the spiritual world. And what does that mean? It means that gradually you change your nature to become more and more like the Creator. And it means that the Creator, first of all, is this upper force that fills all of reality, guides it towards a sublime goal. And once our participation in this thought of his, in the plan of creation, and what does that mean? It means that if right now the Creator is governing the whole of reality, making everything happen exactly as it is happening, and he's doing it with a good intention, meaning it's to guide us towards a beautiful, eternal life above space and time, where he is delighting us, giving us pleasure, meaning the desire that he created in us, that we chase all day, all kinds of pleasures, fulfillments. He put this desire in us so that all of the pleasures that we know about, and especially the ones that lie beyond our field of awareness of ourselves, all of them will be fulfilled. And he's doing everything in reality in order to guide us towards this beautiful future that we're destined for and we're headed for, and it's going to happen. Now, if his forces are guiding this and making everything happen, and really we little ants, including what I would say are the planets and all of the universe and everything in it, all of these things are governed by him and pushed forward without really any free choice. So the Creator actually wants us to take his place more and more, to govern this reality in his place. This means that we take on all of his properties, his mind, speaking metaphorically, his mind, his heart, the Creator, and take his place and govern reality. And so if you want to call that magic, then a Kabbalist is one who has magic. But in truth, what is really happening is that we discover a force that exists in nature. So if 1,000 years ago you had shown people this airplane, they would think it was a miracle, or someone skydiving from the airplane, or many things from our life now would look like magic. What really happened was that we saw these birds here, and based on the birds, we copied the forces by which the birds are able to take flight. We learned that there are laws of physics by which we would be able to make something that can fly and even fly to outer space. So is it magic, or we just discovered forces that exist in nature already? In the thought of creation, the Creator's thought, existed such forces, and we learned to harness them. And in the same way, there are many hidden forces that we don't know about. It's not magic. It's not supernatural. For now, it's beyond our understanding of nature. Now, usually when we talk about magic, we mean the Harry Potter kind of magic. And similar to the reason that Harry Potter is so successful and popular, the stories of the Baal Shem Tov became very popular. That is precisely what people got interested in, intrigued in to this day. But those stories of Baal Shem Tov really were, like I said, for serious people. They were kind of a joke, because though a Kabbalist does something more than Harry Potter, something much greater, right? So Harry Potter is in a certain set of supernatural constraints by which he can perform magic. He's got to mix this potion with that potion, or say these words or those words. A Kabbalist is much higher than this. He uses the actual forces of creation that the Creator uses, and starts governing reality like the Creator. So it's really something much greater. But we like these stories, meaning popular culture really gloms onto these stories of magic, like Baal Shem Tov is ascribed magic, and Harry Potter is one of the most famous books and movies. Why? Because it exactly targets my ego. It really touches the main problem between me and the Creator, meaning any person and the Creator of reality. And that is that the Creator of reality put us in shackles, confines, laws, constraints, scaffolds. He really pinned us in and made rules by which we're allowed to operate. And what we would like, of course, is to have a secret hack by which we could violate the laws of reality. That's the really cool thing about Harry Potter, is that he doesn't operate in the same confines. When he wants something, he can just make it happen. And that's what we would like to be able to do. We would be willing to pray to the Creator, do some meditation, really anything to be able to violate the laws of this reality. There's also this underlying thing about Harry Potter, as though you're going against the Creator, as though you uncover some secret rules or hidden in some books, some secret that ostensibly goes against the Creator's will. You find this key and you're able to subvert the laws of reality, go above them. You're no longer tied up in this kindergarten that the nature has created for us. You may be able to fly. You may be able to cast your enemies into a fiery pit. You can do all sorts of things that the ego would like to do. Now, is any of this possible through Kabbalah or any other means? Well, It depends on one thing and one thing alone, and that is whether or not this upper force has deigned it to be so. Meaning, has the upper force, which fills all of reality, Kabbalists say there is none else besides it, filling everything, doing everything, making everything happen, giving me the feeling that I'm also making things happen, though it is the only thing making things happen. Did it create a provision by which one can do something that is outside of the constraints of the laws of nature? Whether it's finding it, you find it in some book, some hidden wisdom, philosophy, meditation. Did the upper force plan that for you so that you could find it there, let's say? And that's basically it. Did this upper force create such secret keys to reality that you can thus unlock something that is out of the ordinary? And if so, then it exists just like this airplane and the birds, right? There's a law that we need to discover. And so this is what Baal Shem Tov did, actually, was that he opened up this system of laws that exists beyond those that are visible to us, and we truly feel very, very little of the reality. We are, compared to the spiritual world that exists beyond our perception, we're like in a kindergarten where everything is safe and we're subject to the rules of that kindergarten. And how do we come outside of this kindergarten? That's the question. So to understand Baal Shem Tov and what he did, what he created, what he opened up, turns out not to be all that simple. Because first of all, there's no testament from him that he wrote. There's only stuff that is written by his students. And a lot of it is allegorical, it's stories. So what Baal Shem Tov's teachings actually were is a little bit challenging to get to the bottom of. And you can tell this by the great Kabbalist of the 20th century, Baal Sulam, in this letter that he wrote to his son Rabash. He says, "Since we have been rewarded with the teachings of the Ari and the workways of the Baal Shem Tov, it is truly possible for anyone, and the above preparations are no longer necessary." What preparations is he talking about? You, in order to attain spirituality, used to have to suffer greatly. You just had to suffer. We won't get into it, but because of these two great Kabbalists, things changed, and reaching these upper sublime spiritual worlds became possible for everyone. So it's interesting what he says here. So the teachings of the Ari, because the Ari, although he also didn't write, his students, he had special students there that took down his words and even were able to write them from memory, so that we have books called the Tree of Life and others that are from this great Kabbalist called the Ari. So we have books from him, but from Baal Shem Tov we do not. We have what Baal Sulam calls the workways of the Baal Shem Tov. So it means the Ari was the one who brought the method, and Baal Shem Tov brought its implementation. And there's a very close corollary between the relationship between the Ari and Baal Shem Tov and Baal Sulam and his son Rabash. So Baal Sulam is the reincarnation of the Ari. And I can't say about Rabash, but Rabash, like Baal Shem Tov, brought the implementation of the method of Baal Sulam, without which we really wouldn't know how to use Bala Sulam's writings. So he writes, he goes on, if you step in those two, which by the Creator's grace I have been favored by him, the Creator, and have received them firmly, and my view is as close to you as the closeness of the Father to his Son, I will certainly pass them on to you when you are ready to receive from mouth to mouth. So mouth to mouth, pale pay, is the actual way by which these teachings can be passed on. So actually, Baal Shem Tov, you can't really learn from a book. You can only learn it from a teacher, a Kabbalist, through that Kabbalist, through adhering to them, and by them passing this method to you, I don't know how to say it, through the ether, through the airwaves, but it's not by any logic that we are able to understand. It's by something that for us is like supernatural, but it comes from the connection between a teacher and their student. And Bala Sulam passed this on to Rabash in this way. And so we can start to understand what Baal Shem Tov was, what his method was, by looking at some notes that Rabash actually wrote just for himself, but we have them now, so we can take a look at that. So he says, prior to the Baal Shem Tov, there were no seminaries dedicated to learning the hidden. So people were religious, and if you wanted to know something beyond the religion, you wanted to go beyond that and study what's called the hidden Torah, which is really the wisdom of Kabbalah. There was no place to study that. You had to be really lucky and find some special secret person. There was like a Kabbalist there that you could go study in hiding with, but there was no school for Kabbalah. And all the seminaries that were at that time were only for learning the revealed Torah. Anyone who yearned to learn the hidden had difficulty finding a teacher for this purpose. For this reason, many forces were lost because they did not find a place dedicated to it. So what happened was, at the time, it was a very difficult time for Jews especially, and really people suffered from day to day, every day, economic hardships, expulsions, being kicked out of this place and then having to run to another place, and this was their life, a life of suffering. They were blamed for all of the hardships that were going on in the places in which they lived. And so there was a lot of suffering, and this caused people to really ask, what is the meaning of my life? What are we living here for? And so it's in this context that the Baal Shem Tov decided that it was time to reveal what previously had been forbidden to reveal, absolutely forbidden to reveal. And he writes here, but after the Baal Shem Tov established a special seminary for the hidden Torah, all the wise disciples whose heart yearned to learn the Creator and whose soul yearned for the hidden Torah knew where to turn. So their shop was open. If you wanted to learn the hidden wisdom, you could go and learn it. By this, the disciples learning the hidden Torah proliferated. And there were some who didn't like that he was teaching this. And one of the great ones was called the Agra. And to this day, there exists the remnants of these two schools. In fact, in these two schools of thought. In that letter that I opened with, earlier on, Bala Sulam says that he wants his son Rabash to get an ordination from both of these two schools of thought. So he got his rabbinical ordination from these two opposing rabbis that were the lead rabbis in Israel, one of which was Rav Kook. But these two feuding, and he wanted this so that Rabash would be kind of neutral and accepted by both of these warring factions, and he would be able to teach the wisdom of Kabbalah and be kind of accepted by both sides. And this feud actually dates back all the way to the Baal Shem Tov. And it was precisely because Baal Shem Tov wanted to disseminate the wisdom of Kabbalah that he was hated and refuted, and really they would throw rocks at him when he would go into certain places because the followers of this other Kabbalist, the Agra, turned the Agra's opposition to Baal Shem Tov into hatred and fanaticism, like we see in our world today between warring sides, the left and the right. So there were these two views on whether Kabbalah should be disseminated. Both Baal Shem Tov and the Agra were great Kabbalists, huge Kabbalists, with a high attainment of the upper roots. They attained very high roots up in the spiritual worlds. But there's an area where even for great Kabbalists, it's possible to dispute, because there's an area that pertains to the people who are down, if you see my diagram, on the level of our world, where really we don't even know what distinguishes us. We have different ideas of what distinguish us from animals. But, if we start parsing it out, we see that there's not that much difference, and we'd be hard-pressed to define what actually distinguishes us from others in the animal kingdom, or maybe we're just like them in the level of the animal kingdom. And so there is a question when it comes to those people. There's no question about these upper worlds, Asiya, Yetzirah, Bria, Atzilut, Adam Kadmon. Up there, they're probably in agreement, the Kabbalists. But when we should start opening this hidden wisdom to the people who live like beasts in our world, when we should make it possible for them to start rising from this lowly state where we only perceive this dark black bubble called our universe to the wide expanses of the spiritual world, over that there was a dispute. And the Agra believed that it was not yet the time. And Baal Shem Tov wanted to teach Kabbalah openly. He didn't actually call it Kabbalah. It was more of an integral education. But to his inner group, which was probably, I think I read somewhere around 30 students altogether, he taught this actual Kabbalah. It was the Zohar. It was the Kabbalah of the Ari. And he taught them what you can call magic if you want to. It's not really magic, but for us, it's an entry into a realm that is hidden from us, that it's so hidden that we don't even feel that it's hidden. And it's through our inner work, it's something inside of us that locks us, cages us in this perception of reality that we're in. And through different keys and locks and doors inside of you, you open up a world that really opens up into a world, a new perception of reality that lies beyond and controls our reality. And you, by entering there, start to take on the properties of the Creator and to govern all that is below. And then you rise higher through these degrees and you govern all that is below, because this is what the Creator actually wants. He wants you to take on His properties, His mind, metaphorically, His heart, so that you think like Him. You have this same thought of creation that He has, and you implement it. And why would He want that? because he wants you to become like him, because that's the greatest gift that can be. Not any reception, not $1 billion, not all of the things that we think we want in our world, but this is what all those things are actually leading to. What's really driving us, we're driven towards these different clothings, right? I want a glass of wine, a steak, sex, something else, a vacation. These are clothings, but they all ultimately lead to a much greater desire and a much greater fulfillment, which is becoming like the Creator. So this is what the Baal Shem Tov started opening up for people, and this is why they were throwing rocks at him. Because for a long time, for thousands of years, it had been almost 2,000 years. Before which it was actually open. Kabbalah was openly taught. That's how the Greeks got their whole philosophy, by talking to Kabbalists, and then they corporealized that. But it went in after the fall of the temple, the second temple, it really went into a stage where it had to be concealed, the entire wisdom of Kabbalah, and you could only teach the externalization of the inner principles, which manifest as all kinds of different customs, basically a religion. Because if you can't actually attain the Creator right now during this lifetime, then it's good to be in different customs that will at least keep you somewhat close to the Creator, because these customs were all based on the inner spiritual actions that later on you'll do. Not this lifetime, then in the next lifetime. 10 lifetimes from now, 100 lifetimes from now. But eventually you will do these customs at a deeper level, at the level of your desires, where you will find that they all have some kind of inner translation. What are they all about? They're all about, and the people at this time, during Baal Shem Tov's time, were all religious. So Baal Shem Tov didn't teach religion at all, because everybody was already religious. And so he taught them, what are these things, these external customs inside of you? Well, what could they possibly be about? In all of reality, there's only the Creator and the creation. The creation is the desire to receive, because we're supposed to receive all kinds of, for now, unimaginable fulfillments. And because of a process that we learn about in Kabbalah, the descent through the worlds, we're in a stage now called our world, where you can no longer receive. You can't receive. You can chase pleasure, but it will never actually get inside you. And that's the whole reason why we will chase pleasures until we're in the grave. But we couldn't even imagine that they could actually be received. We think of pleasure as the chase for pleasure. We don't have any experience of ever having received pleasure. We call being on the way to some pleasure, pleasure itself. That's not pleasure. Pleasure is not that there's a light that shines for me and, ooh, I'm about to get it, I'm about to get it, I'm about to get it, and that's what pleasure is, that I'm about to get it, I'm so excited about it, that's what we call pleasure. But actually, what if it went inside the vessel, actually entered? We don't know what that would be. We can't even imagine it. We can imagine it just because we have an example that is a copy, a wooden airplane copy of spirituality, whereby we can see the ice cream and then eat the ice cream and it goes inside of us. But the actual fulfillment, when it goes inside me, disappears, and I'm on to the next pleasure. But here there's a method called the method of Kabbalah, the wisdom of Kabbalah, meaning reception, the wisdom of how to receive. And this is what Baal Shem Tov started teaching us, that all we are is a desire, And the question is, how do I receive? Do I receive with a masak screen, meaning with this filtration, this sieve on top of my desire, or do I try to receive just as I am with a wide mouth open? And that's the way I am, with a wide mouth. My desire and my willingness to receive is in exact ratio to the availability of pleasures and my ability to receive them and not suffer from receiving them. And I have no other limitation on my desire except how much is the nature or creator going to allow me to get? What's available? I don't long to marry the princess of the kingdom because I know I can't get that, and it would cause me suffering to long for that. So I don't long for that. But if I were suddenly told she's interested in you, the princess would like to, or I was told that you have the winning ticket for $1 billion, go get your prize. Suddenly I'd see that, ooh, I do have a desire for it. So I'm only limited by the possibilities before me. And Kabbalah is about having an additional limitation by which I open up all the possibilities. So if right now they're all closed to me, all possibilities, I'm limited to my little simple life and what the Creator gave me. And if I want more possibilities to open up, I actually have to close myself. I need to do something called simsum, restriction, in a special way that we learn in Kabbalah, where because I am closed, I am actually opened up to all possibilities. Similar to how if there was no atmosphere around Earth, then it would actually be, you wouldn't see a beautiful blue sky above you. You would see black, just dark black. But because you have this resistor, so the light shines beautifully and we see a beautiful blue sky and all of the colors. And it's a law you can find everywhere in nature that wide open isn't necessarily the best, okay? So this is really the wisdom of Kabbalah that the Baal Shem Tov taught. And you can call it magic if you want. You can call it a miracle if you want, because I open up this whole new world of possibilities. But it's by discovering, like the birds and the airplane, a principle that already existed, meaning there's this possibility to take on this spiritual masak screen. I can discover this screen and place it over my whole desire. And by this, I can actually let the light in. So this is called, we saw an opposite world, meaning the Kabbalists from our world, they come to see a world that is completely opposite. We can't even imagine how opposite upon opposite this is to what we experience. They discover this opposite world by the implementation of this masak. So let's look a little bit more at what Rabash tells us about Baal Shem Tov. So he said, Bala Sulam made it so that if an ordinary person follows his way, he can achieve divakut with the Creator, adhesion with the Creator, which is this masak, this screen, because our desire is opposite to the Creator, because he's the property of bestowal and I'm the property of reception. But the intention to bestow makes us equal, and that's what this masak is. It's the intention to bestow. Before him, one had to be a great wise disciple in order to be rewarded with this, with adhesion with the Creator. Before the Baal Shem Tov, one even had to be among the greatest in the world, or he would not be able to attain godliness. So Baal Shem Tov changed that. And here's how he sold this to the people. Here's how he brought the masses to come and learn how to do this, how to put on this masak, how to reveal the upper worlds. He said, Rabash writes, when a person wants to buy an object and he must pay for it, a mediator between the seller and the buyer is required. The mediator lets the buyer understand that this object is worth more than the sum he is asked to pay, meaning that the seller is not asking for such a high price for merchandise that is worth a lot. For this reason, ethics books help us understand what a person must relinquish in corporeality in order to attain spirituality. They teach that all the corporeal pleasures are but imaginary pleasures and are worthless. Like I just said, that in our world, we want to receive and we spend all our life trying to, and we never actually do it. All we call reception is the pleasure of being on the way to what I hope will actually be reception, but never is. So this was the way that people used to invite people to study Kabbalah. They would say, this world's not really worth anything, and you never receive here anyway. You just lead a life of suffering, that if you do the accounting at the end of your life, you'll see it wasn't actually worth it to live. It was like a very bad business deal. All the effort you put in for the little bit of pleasure that you got, if you add it all up, not worthwhile to even live. So that's how they used to teach it before Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov introduced a different way. The books of the Baal Shem Tov gave the primary weight to the merchandise, meaning they help understand the value and importance and greatness of spirituality. So it's not just that your life sucks and so devote yourself to spirituality, but rather spirituality is something great. It's something worth running toward. And he even introduced corrections within the system of reality whereby you don't actually have to suffer to reach spirituality. You can live and enjoy your life, but just add to it this beautiful, sublime, infinitely delightful addition of the spiritual world. So live in two worlds. And that's why he started teaching them the Kabbalah of the Ari, whereby he taught about these different worlds, Asiyah, Yetzirah, Bria, Atzilut, Adam Kedmon, that a person can attain. And by this, he attracted people, and he got students that he taught to be teachers, and they brought this wisdom to the masses. And those who were not at a great level of spiritual yearning, he taught them a principle that is close to attainment of the Creator, but not yet attainment of the Creator. What was it? He basically taught them, love your neighbor as yourself, and don't do to others what you hate. And he taught that you need to be in unity with others. And what does unity means? It means that with those that are close to you and in wider circles until it includes the whole world, you need to be in balance. And this is a sort of pared down version of the balance that you need to attain with the Creator, whereby you become equal with Him. So the masak, the screen, the spiritual screen, is this harmonizing factor by which you harmonize with all of nature, which is really just the Creator. The Creator is called nature. His laws are nature's laws. Beyond the laws of our world, there's also more laws, spiritual laws pertaining to the world of Asiyah, Yetzirah, Bria, and so on. And he taught them that if you weren't ready for the full wisdom of Kabbalah, where over your desire, your entire desire, including all of it, everything that you are, which is just desire, at bottom, that's all you have. Over that, you put this screen, And to the extent that you increase this screen, you have like this flashlight by which you can see further into the spiritual worlds. If you weren't ready for that, a pared down version of it is just be in balance with that which is around you. So it's a kind of integral education to understand that you are in connection with everyone around you, and you need to balance with them. You need to be in connection with them. You need to be in unity with them. And you need to start this unity with those that are closest to you. So if you're the one who is called Israel, Yashar Kel, straight to the Creator, who has this desire, and it did exist in all of those people who were around the Baal Shem Tov, because at the time, if you were Jewish, you were relegated to a certain ghetto. You had to go and live where Jews lived. And so around them, there were basically these people who once upon a time, in incarnations before, were in a spiritual degree. They were in the degree called, first of all, Mochen de Haya, which is the first temple, which was a very high spiritual degree. And what was it? It was a special connection between them, meaning each one had a connection with those around them that could then be translated into the connection with the Creator. So first of all, you have to connect with your reality, with those that are around you. And that's what they did in the first temple. They connected in a form called, now this is in every kindergarten, in certain places, love your friend as yourself, or love the other as yourself. And if you can't do that, at least don't do to them things that you hate. And so they had this relationship with all of those that were called Israel. After that, the temple fell. It fell externally because they fell from this degree called love of others. They started behaving just like egoists towards each other. Later on, they connected, a few of them, at a lower degree called Mochen de Neshama. And this was the second temple. That fell. And then all of those people who really their souls or desires that fell from this degree and then started feeling themselves only in our world until they moved to all these places in the diaspora. But still inside of them exists what's called a reshimo. It's a record from this connection that they had in which they felt the Creator. And so in every single one of them is nevertheless this feeling that the Creator exists. It's not a belief. It's a feeling somewhere deep down that the Creator, there is a Creator. Others believe that. They feel it. Even if they say they are an atheist, they feel it. Somewhere, but only in a small point, and it comes up and then hides and comes up and then hides. But nevertheless, this point is valuable because with this point, and if you feel yourself as such a person, maybe you once too were on such a degree, and then you got mixed to the extent that you don't even recognize yourself as such. But this spark that is called Israel, Yashar Kel, straight to the Creator, with those who have this spark, you can already start creating a connection between you in which the Creator can be revealed. So this is what Baal Shem Tov did. To those who had a great burning desire and really wanted to reveal all these spiritual worlds, he taught them about those worlds, and he read with them special texts by which you can draw what is called the reforming light into this connection between you until it reaches intensity in which the spiritual world opens up. And those who didn't have such a burning desire, he taught them just the simple, what I called integral education of love your neighbor as yourself. And you need to be connected and you need to be in unity. And this was called the Torah of the Baal Shem Tov. And in these circles where Baal Shem Tov students taught, they taught this integral education, and correctly taught by one who is connected to the upper world. A person, even if they don't have a great longing for spirituality, starts feeling that in this connection with other people who are also oriented toward the Creator, you start to feel something that is otherworldly. And so Baal Shem Tov got a lot of followers. He became very well respected, famous, even though he was hated at the same time by those who thought that he shouldn't be opening this up to everybody. And so the people started feeling that there was something special in this man, in this teaching. And those close to him, those 30 or so students, he was able to bring them to a connection with the spiritual world. Okay, so let's look at a couple more writings from Baal Shem Tov. From Rabash. So this is called Annulment, the Baal Shem Tov Way, and this was just something that he wrote to himself. This was never published. It was in his notebook. The way to annul the body used to be through abstention. So if you wanted to attain the spiritual worlds, actually you had to live a life of suffering called drink little water, eat only bread with salt, and sleep on the ground. And if you do so, then happy you will be in this world and happy you will be in the spiritual world. If you wanted to study Kabbalah, that was the hashtag. And that really was the only way that you could attain what we're talking about, the spiritual worlds, to open it up, to not only feel this world, this black, dark bubble, but like Bala Sulam says, to be like the worm that was in the bitter radish and comes out of the radish and discovers the wide, beautiful, sublime world. If you wanted to do that, you needed to suffer real good in this world. The Kabbalists, the Ari, and then the Baal Shem Tov did special corrections within the system of reality, whereby that was no longer the case. Instead of suffering, you could actually just yearn towards reaching the spiritual world, and you could reach it through a whole method that we teach in Kabbalah, through special books, particular ones, and special ways of study, which is really this integral education that I mentioned. You can reach it. And that's why Rabash says there is another way besides suffering, which is the annulment before the teacher. So you need somebody who happens to already have connection with the Creator. And then for us, it's like supernatural because we don't understand how you can just have a connection with somebody. And it's not necessarily that you do some like special meditation or incantation or something, but because of your connection with that person, like a child sitting on their father's shoulders can see something that they weren't able to see. So you can connect with a teacher, a Kabbalist, and by following their every move, you can attain what they attain. So he says, this is the meaning of make for yourself a Rav, a great one, meaning you need to find somebody that can be that teacher for you. Making is clarified by force without any intellect, meaning you have to find, like students of Kabbalah always had to go and find a Kabbalist. Now we can do it online, but you have to find a Kabbalist and make them your teacher. And this is actually how you attain the upper world. And of course you check where's the best place. Is there a teaching lineage that goes back through the generations? But once you decide on this teacher, you've got to follow them all the way. He writes, there is guidance in the manner of the general public called Or Makif, surrounding light, which is light that shines only from outside and is without words, but only by coming to the Rav and sitting in front of him, sitting at his table during the meal or during the service. Yet there is another way, which is internal, and this is specifically through mouth to mouth. So this is the way that the wisdom is passed on through this method called mouth to mouth. So it's actually not through books, through some meditation, certain practices, certain habits, customs. At the end of the day, the way to attain the spiritual world is through this elusive thing that Kabbalists sometimes whisper about here and there, that is called Pale Pay, mouth to mouth. And it's actually through a common masak, a common screen, whereby the student first of all, nullifies their desire to receive. That's step one. And takes upon themselves the desire to receive of the upper one, their teacher. They take on their mind, their heart, everything. And their desire, my own desire, is out of commission. I don't use it. I only use the desire of the upper one. It's like somebody leading you out of the woods or some dark cave, and all you can do is trust in them. But this, but that, but my questions I have about where you're taking me. No, I just go with them, and they lead the way because they know the way. And this is actually the hardest thing about the wisdom of Kabbalah, by the way, is that to the wisdom of Kabbalah usually come smart people, capable people. They don't need to be. They could be not smart. But typically it's big egoists, meaning nothing in this world was good enough for me. I also need an upper world. Whether I had the strength, or wanted to bother achieving things in this world, I, one way or another, decided that this world is not enough for me, not worth spending my energy on more than is necessary. And so I also need an upper world. So it means that I'm a bigger egoist than everybody else who are satisfied with this world. And so for such an egoist to come to the wisdom of Kabbalah, whether you're in Baal Shem Tov's time, any time in history, it would always be the one with the biggest desire, the biggest ego. And so for such a person to do what we just said, which is to nullify their desire, their mind, before a teacher in this special way that isn't below reason, it's not mindlessly, like people who can follow some cult leader or something. That's actually pleasurable in an egoistic way that is different altogether. But here, I have to have my mind. It's not that I cancel it and cancel my desire and stick my head in the sand and just follow. No, I have a mind, and this mind grows, and the feeling also grows as you study the wisdom of Kabbalah. And I have to keep adhering myself to an upper one who knows the way, to a Kabbalist. And this is why it's written that 1,000 enter a room and only one comes out to the light. Meaning many come to the wisdom of Kabbalah, and many learn it prolifically. They read all of the books, memorize it, understand, but where the person usually fails is in this final point, which is actually the most important one, which is that I need to be nullified enough before my teacher that it's clear to the teacher internally that I'm worthy of this transition to the upper world. And this is what's hard to do. So to be smart and be wise and understand the whole wisdom, that's one thing. But what's harder is to basically overcome this ever-growing knowledge, because with the wisdom of Kabbalah, you become smarter, you become wiser, you become one who feels more of reality than you did when you first started. And if in the beginning it was easy to overcome your great mind, later on it becomes much more challenging. And so one who succeeds attains what the Kabbalists attain. They attain the upper world, and we can call that magic if we want, because for us, it really is something just like Harry Potter, meaning as not understood, not possible. You know, if you're a muggle, there is no hope for you to become magical. You either got it or you don't. And this magic that isn't magic, it's something that's for us is supernatural, above nature, but it's something that anybody can discover if they're willing to go through the process. And there's a clear step-by-step process by which a person attains this that we study in Kabbalah. So I invite you all to join us in our Kabbalah courses and go through the process. And it really is the process of Baal Shem Tov. It's all based on his method because, like I said, the Ari was incarnated as Bala Sulam, but his method wasn't practicable. It was somewhere in the books there about spiritual worlds and such, but what do you do with this? How do you attain it? Only Baal Shem Tov started teaching how, through the reality you're in, with the people that are next to you, meaning others who you're studying with, he taught them in words how, not in writing, he didn't write it. He taught them how through this group around you, you start revealing the Creator. Rabash committed it to writing. He actually wrote what are the step-by-step instructions by which you attain the Masak, the screen, and reveal the spiritual world. So that's the miracle, meaning there are no miracles. And those miracles that are ascribed to Baal Shem Tov, the truth is they were like Harry Potter, meaning they were something to give people hope, just like Harry Potter gives people hope. You know, it's like you escape into this world and it's nice to think that there could be other worlds and magic. It's fun to dress into those imaginations and fantasize what it would be like if I could subvert the laws of reality, these laws by which the Creator keeps me locked into my life of suffering, and that there could be a way out. It was great, especially at the time of Baal Shem Tov, because it was a time of great suffering. It was wonderful to think, never mind that I could attain something, but to think that there's some great man there that had contact with the Creator and performed miracles, because then it's as if miracles could happen to me too, maybe. And so Kabbalists, what they really want to teach us, although those stories were given to people to calm them down, make their life a little bit better in a time when they couldn't become like the Baal Shem Tov. But in our time, it's possible for everyone to become like the Baal Shem Tov. Truly possible. All you have to do is want it, and you can do it without suffering, like we said. You can do it just by yearning for this addition to what's already in your life. It's going to be good or bad, your life, right? But in addition to this, you can attain something that is something beautiful, that makes everything else beautiful, justifies everything else. So with that, we're concluding. thank you for joining us on Kabbalah Explained Simply. And if you're joining us for the special Q&A for Kabbalah students, I'll see you over in the Zoom.